Hello and welcome to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton. And this is the player ratings video for the 2-1 win over Southampton, first away win of the season, which is always delightful. And like I touched on in the instant reaction, really, you can never really complain, I don't think, with a win on the road, whether it be a good performance or even a bit of an ugly win, which I think looking back a bit now, I think maybe today's was a bit of both. I think in the first half we actually played really well and had a lot of really good chances. Then in the second half, once we got into that lead after that frantic few minutes at the start of the second half, we obviously had a lot more defending to do and we were all almost clinging on at the end. I think I think on another day, Southampton could have nicked it, and maybe last season when results really weren't going our way, they would have done, and we would have come away with either a draw or maybe even nothing from St Mary's. But this is the new Everton now, hopefully, at least anyway, based on the starts of the season we've had a lot more plucky, and where even if we play well or don't, we're able to come away with results. So definitely positive. But we're going to get into the match reactions now. Moving on into the ratings now, and kicking off obviously in goal, Jordan Pickford back after picking up a little bit of an injury, which meant he missed our last game against West Ham 2 weeks ago. For once, the international break was actually did us quite a bit of a big favour because obviously we would have had a game last weekend without that. Pickford also, of course, would have gone away with England if the international break if he'd been fit for it. So obviously that allowed him time to recover and meant he only missed one game for us and came in and obviously he didn't have loads to do in the second half. He had a few really good saves to make, but it's just one of them again. It's so nice having a reliable goalkeeper. Not to say Begovic did anything wrong. Obviously we got a clean sheet in the one game that he was in against West Ham, but Pickford's Pickford, and great game management as well, of course, really getting under the Southampton fans' skin with the time wasted. Again, a little bit overblown. This does seem to be a little bit of a trend in games now. I think, Goodison are as guilty of it as any when we're chasing a goal. But really, the fans getting on the back of the goalkeeper really early, the time wasting. They were doing it in the first half when we were on top and chasing a goal. Like, why would Pickford want to be time wasting? It seems a bit bizarre. It's quite a little bit of a, I guess, kind of snidey tactic to get in the referee's head and kind of make them make a mental note that will Pickford's time wasting quite a bit. If he keeps doing it, I'm going to have to book him maybe a bit earlier than he would do based on his own accord. I don't know. But regardless, Pickford, once again, had another solid game. And Seamus Coleman, who, of course, replaced him as captain. Coleman obviously making his first start of the season. Pickford's been captain in his absence. And I've seen Coleman getting a lot of stick recently ever since Patterson picked up injury on international duty. People groaning and saying, "Oh, Coleman coming in, past it, all that." But I think people really need to recognise that this is exactly what we've needed Coleman to be for years now. He needs to be this guy who can come in rather than being the starter week in and week out, which, based on Patterson's form, he probably won't be anymore. But yeah, Coleman being someone who can come in when needed, like when Patterson's injured, and put in a performance like that is exactly what we knew we'd get from him. Really, I've realised as well. I haven't actually done the ratings. Pickford gets a 7, and Coleman also gets a 7. I'm recording this right after the reaction, so everything kind of going for me at a bit at the moment. But yeah, Coleman, I think misunderstood. It's got to be said, and I thought he was excellent today. I'm probably up there for our man of the match, honestly. Didn't put a foot wrong. And that's exactly what you need, and still bursting down the flank at the ripe old age of, what is it, 33 now, still defensively solid. Just never looked out of place, and that's exactly what you need. Hardly putting up any trees, but he's our backup now. And it's been a long time coming. We've all recognised we need a top younger right back to come in because Coleman's not been at that level where he can do this week in and week out anymore. But I think today is a clear sign that he's still got quite a few years left in him as a backup for me. So if he's willing to stick around for that time, then all power to him and that's definitely a good thing for us. Moving on, Cody. I think he has to get a 7 as well. Obviously, got his goal, first ever Everton goal after the Liverpool one was ruled out, the one that's been making all the headlines this week. But yeah, this one actually counts, and really well taken, to be fair. Commentator said it, it was a really weird header from Arnold. I don't think anyone was really expecting to head it back like that, and yet Cody reacts instantly, the striker's reaction, you could say, and fires home. Sorry as well, by the way, if you can hear either the rain, it's absolutely lashing down here where I am, and also any banging next door. They're having work done, so yeah, it's a bit of a nightmare. So hopefully that doesn't pick up too well on the mic. But yeah, Connor Cody again, solid defensive. I thought everyone put in a real shift defensively. I think we worked really hard for this, and away from home, that's exactly what you want. Hard fought away when we love them. So, and yeah, Cody played a big part in that. So he gets a 7 from me. And then Tarkovsky, obviously everyone's got a 7 so far. I think maybe Cody's goal pushes him over Tarkovsky a bit. I'm going to give him a 6. Didn't really notice him too much, which actually for a defender is usually a good sign. But, and once again, a lot of solid movements. Reads the game really well. Him and Cody are such a solid centre back pairing. It's ridiculous. And yeah, I don't think you can fault Tarkovsky whatsoever, really. And I think a 6 is a fair rating. There's not really too much to say on that. Then Mikalenko also gets a 6. I've actually been really impressed with him the last few games. I think he's really flown under the radar. I actually think he didn't start the season particularly well. Obviously, last season he looked really, really good. And I think at the start of the season, he maybe struggled a bit to recapture that sort of form. But last couple of games, he was my man of the match against West Ham. I don't think I saw anyone else say that. Obviously, Iwobi in particular stole all the headlines. I'm not exactly saying Mikalenko was like up there this week, but he wins so many tackles. He's such a good defender, and I think that's maybe what some people have had a bit of criticism for him for, in that he's still quite limited going forward. I forget how young Mikalenko is. I think, what is it? He's only like 21, 22 at most. He's still so young. And I think we do forget it because, he's a full-fledged international already, playing for Ukraine, of course. And has been part of the Dynamo Kiev team for a while now, but he's still got so many years ahead of him. He's still got a lot of improvement. And working with Ashley Cole and Leighton Baines, of course, you couldn't really be given to people better to make you better going forward as a left back, really. So that'll definitely come, I'm sure. And as long as he's doing the basics defensively at the moment, which I for one think he really is doing very well, then yeah, superb for Mikalenko yet again. One criticism I would have, and probably the reason he hasn't got a 7 from me, is he did get dragged out of position quite a bit. I don't know what it was about the way Southampton was set up, but Mikalenko seemed to be getting drawn in quite a bit with Stuart Armstrong out on the right and stuff. Armstrong isn't really an out and out winger. He kind of sits in a bit more. And I think he was giving Mikalenko problems once or twice. But regardless, Mikalenko still another very solid performance, and that's why he gets a 6. Ganagay, I wasn't entirely sure on this one. It's quite a hard one to make with Gana. I gave him a 7 in the end just because of how good he was, particularly in that first half with winning tackles and stuff. But I think we did see a little bit of what I remember of Ganagay before we went to PSG, a little bit sloppy. I think the way Southampton was set up with them being so combative in midfield gave him a little bit of issues. I think when Ghana really flourished against West Ham in our last game because of how much West Ham sat off. And that was part of the way they were set up. Southampton were a lot more combative, particularly in the midfield with, Ward-Prowse and Ainsley Maitland-Niles, 2 people who can just run for days, basically. I would say we outnumbered them in that midfield with our 3 players, all of similar stuff. But Ghana was getting caught out once or twice. And of course, he was at fault for the goal. If anyone was, I'd say, gave the ball away in which the moves for Southampton started. And yeah, that's what I mean. I think without that, he probably would have been man of the match and an 8. There's no one above a 7 here. There's quite a few players on a 7 for me, which is why picking a man of the match is so difficult. But we'll get onto that at the end. But yeah, I think Ghana still has to have a 7. Still, just he's brilliant, and he's such a player that fans really get on board with again. And having already been here for that many years, fans are going to take to him instantly with performances like this. So, yeah, a 7 for Ganagay. Then moving on to his partner in the kind of more defensive midfield role, Onana. I feel a little bit harsh about this one, but I'm only just going to give him a 6. Solid enough. Obviously, got the assist. Did very well actually for the assist. Like I say, like I touched on earlier, I don't think really anyone expected him to head it back. It was quite a strange decision, but it worked out. And obviously, like I say, Cody puts it away. Again, no, Anana was little bit sloppy at times. But I think that's to kind of be expected. He's by no means playing badly. He should definitely still be a starter for us. But as I said about Mikalenko as well, Nana is also still really, really young and also getting used to the pace of the Premier League as well. So I think we've all got to be very patient with him. And already, he's getting chants sung about him like by the Everton crowd. He's clearly someone that everyone's taken to a lot. So let's just keep patient with him. And to be fair, there'll probably be people that are saying I'm being harsh about his performance today anyway. People are saying he had a good game and probably deserves higher than a 6, which is fair enough. I'd much rather be told I'm being harsh on our players than being overly positive. So yeah, like I say, leave your thoughts in the comments and give your ratings down there by all means. But yeah, I'm going with a 6 for Onana. But like I say, definitely still a solid enough performance. Like I say, everyone's got a 6 or a 7 here because it's a win. You can't. Someone would have to have played really badly to get below a 6, I'd say, in a win. So that's the logic there. Iwobi is another one that's a 6, and it's an odd one because I feel almost bad having to try and criticize Iwobi now because every single game this season he's been brilliant. Obviously, just like turned it round to a miraculous degree from the Iwobi we knew from seasons gone past. But this was his worst game of the season, easily. There were still some really nice little touches here and there, but he gave the ball away a lot, which is so unlike him. It wasn't even really when I've given him I've given him the benefit of the doubt before, in which sometimes he's been misplacing passes because he's been trying stuff. That wasn't quite the case today, I thought. I think there were quite a few simple passes that he got wrong. But like I said, there's absolutely no laying into anyone here because everyone played well. Everyone worked their nuts off today, and we got a win on the road, which obviously we've been crying out for a long time. I think that's the first one since since Leicester. I think it must be since Leicester at the end of last season. Um, but yeah, like I say, no one played badly today, but some people played better than others, and that's what this video is all about, basically. But yeah, moving into the attack now. Dwight McNeil, he gets a 7, while Iwobi had probably his worst game of the season so far. McNeil undoubtedly had his best Everton performance. Obviously, he got the winner, really well taken goal, great little volley. And it was an assist by Iwobi as well, which again makes me think I'm maybe being a tad harsh on him, but I'm giving him a 6 purely based on his own standards this season. He's been getting 8 and 7s at least this season, every game so far this season. So worst game of the season so far for him, gets a 6. Dwight McNeil, though, moving back onto him, like I say, really well taken goal. Again, works so hard. Obviously he still really kind of struggles to go past players a lot, which kind of takes away from him being a conventional winger. And obviously he was brought off towards the end for Anthony Gordon, but still a really solid performance from McNeil today, and hopefully that can be something for him to kick on a bit more and have a bit more of an influence. Also, as well, I think we have to comment on the corners. I think he's got to become our main corner kick taker now if he's on the pitch. Gray, who we'll get onto on a bit, as well as he played today, the corners just aren't there, are they? And we really have been lacking a set piece taker since Digne left. And of course, the likes of Hammers, who was on them as well. And even Sigurdsson, of course, who we don't really want to get into, of course. But yeah, Dwight McNeil, 7, best Everton performance, best performance for Everton easily so far. And yeah, like I say, hopefully that's a sign of things to come rather than him relapsing into the kind of below par performances we've seen beforehand. But yeah, moving on, Neil Maupay, I'm going to give a 6. You can't really call him quiet because obviously I think we got our first little glimpses of the proper narkiness he's got about him. The snideness, getting in defenders' heads, rattling them. The likes of the Yerry Mina behaviour, if you will. We got our first glimpse of that today, and yet otherwise, I mean, he did the basics well, but he didn't really get to have too much of an influence on the game. Obviously, he scored the winner against West Ham and had a really good performance, but it wasn't wasn't quite there today. I think a lot more went through our wings, and we were sending in a lot of crosses that he was never going to win because he's tiny. So maybe it was a case of the way we played today not really suiting him, but he was dropping deep a lot and laying off passes, which he did really well. Like the type of stuff he would have been doing at Brighton. And yeah, like I say, I can't fault anyone today. I keep saying it. And yeah, he gets a 6, but that's by no means he had a bad game. Just didn't quite have an influence on the game as others did. As did Demari Gray, who again I'd probably say had his best game for us so far this season. Just was causing Southampton like just giving their defenders nightmares. It was causing them so many problems. And yeah, was by far our most dangerous player, especially in that first half. It's just that end product that's lacking a bit, and it's kind of been the issue of us all season. Really, I think this is the first time we've scored more than once in a game so far this season, so that's good to get squared away. But yeah, like I say, the corners weren't great. There were a few, sloppy crosses. Once or twice he got in really good positions and failed to put the shot away, or else that final pass was lacking. But he still has to get a 7 for me just because of how dangerous he was, and he probably has to be man of the match. I think it's either him or Cody. I'd probably say maybe even Ghana. I don't know. There's a few candidates, but I'd probably say Demari Gray just edges it for me just because of how much of an influence he had in that game, especially in the first half. I'm not going to go into the substitutes. I don't really think any of them had enough time on the pitch to really for a number to really be cemented in my head. But like I say, really great performance from everyone today. That's 2 wins out of 2 now. Hopefully, this is the start of a really good spell of form. And we just look a completely different team from last season. The turnaround in fortunes that Lampard's overseeing has been ridiculous. And, we've still got the likes of James Garner to come into the team. We've still got Calvert-Lewin to come back from injury. All the defenders to come back from injury. Godfrey, Holgate, Mina. How are they going to supplant, Tarkovsky or Cody? Because they're both so solid at the moment. And yeah, we just look a much harder team to beat, I think, is the essence of that. And yeah, that's all I can say really. You're always happy after a win. And I'll be smiling tonight. So yeah, let's just enjoy this because we didn't get enough of these last season, not even close. And yeah, like I say, first away win on the board in a good few months. And yeah, that pretty much sums it up. So yeah, please leave a like if you enjoyed. Like I say, comment below, giving your thoughts, giving your ratings on all the players. Tell me which ones you think I got wrong, which ones you agreed with me with. And subscribe to the Toffee Rouge channel for more Everton content. And we will see you in the next one. Cheers.